but there was at least plenty of work. John Brown's had a steady stream of orders which ran into the mid-50s, including the Royal Yacht Britannia. However, this boom masked fundamental changes in the shipbuilding industry. There was less of a demand for the craftsman-built passenger liners, and more emphasis on prefabricated bulk carriers and tankers of ever-increasing size, for which deep water yards were better. With shrinking markets and intense foreign competition, John Brown's was in a serious decline. The management decided to split the shipbuilding and engineering parts of the operation, and John Brown Engineering began to concentrate on land-based contracts. By the 1960s, Britain's share of world shipbuilding had shrunk to 8.3%. The government stepped in to rationalise the industry and created new regional shipbuilding groups. John Brown's merged with Fairfield and Govan, and several smaller yards to become Upper Clyde shipbuilders. One of the first big problems to hit the new company came when the QE2, the third Queen, launched from Clydebank in September 1967, was refused by Cunarders. Technical problems delayed the maiden voyage until May 1969. The yard took a £1.3 million loss on the contract. By June 1971, the Conservative government announced that UCS would go into liquidation. A campaign to save John Brown's and the other yards was mounted immediately, with a mass demonstration in Glasgow on the 23rd of June, at which the entire Clydebank Town Council and much of the town were present. On July 30th, the closure was announced. The Glasgow Herald described Clydebank as a town in mourning. In response, the shipyard workers took control of the yard. The shop steward's chief spokesman, Jimmy Reid, declared that this was neither a strike nor a sit-in, but a work-in, as they did not recognise that there should be any redundancies. The work-in certainly made an impact on the government, but the yard was still to be sold. In 1972, it was bought over, with heavy government assistance, by the American oil rig manufacturers Marathon. The work-in came to an end, and by December, Clydebank was no longer a shipyard. The Second World War also proved to be a watershed for Singer. At the end of the war, they felt that they had a secure market, while new manufacturers in Europe and Japan developed new lines with sophisticated domestic machines and bright colours and plastics and adopted modern manufacturing processes. Singer's marketing policy was reminiscent of Henry Ford's. You can have any car you want as long as it's black. The lack of investment in production began to tell.
By that time, the damage had already been done. The basic machinery for turning out parts was very old, and in some cases it really, to expect it to turn out parts to within a half a thousandth of an inch was really expecting too much. And I think some of them you had to pack up with pieces of card, maybe 2 pieces of blue card on one side and 1 piece of white card on the other to make a box mill work. Well, that sort of thing doesn't allow you to turn out precision parts.
Some attempt at reorganisation was made in the 1960s, which resulted in a new, smaller plant on the site of the famous old factory. Yet it was too little, too late. As more and more jobs were shed, the old loyalties crumbled, and the unions began to take issue with management policy, which was favouring plants in Europe at Clydebank's expense.
Once loyalty started to break down, and that there was redundancies and people were being put off, even though they'd served for a good number of years, then you had difficulties with loyalty because the workforce felt that the company was no longer interested in them, so they no longer had the same interest in the company.
Singer finally closed its gates in June 1980 with the loss of the remaining 3,000 jobs.
Singer had been so much a part of the town from almost its inception, because they came in 1882, so to pull out just before their 100th year in Clydebank, was just unthinkable.
Could nothing have been done?
Well, maybe in the short term things might have been done differently, but probably not in the long run. The old Clydebank with its shipbuilding and sewing machines was no more. Town faced times almost as hard as the 20s and 30s. Everyone realised that some major initiative had to be taken. The Clydebank campaign on employment was set up by the local clergy, trade unionists, traders, councillors and the local MP. The Scottish Development Agency set up a Clydebank task force to work with the district council to attract new industries and new jobs to the town. In 1981, Clydebank was made Scotland's first enterprise zone, giving companies special incentives to set up in Clydebank, as if to emphasise the change from a reliance on heavy industry to a wider range of smaller technology-based and service industries. One of the first companies to move into the new Clydebank Business Park on the site of the old Singer factory was Radio Clyde. Many others followed, and the industrial base of Clydebank district has broadened significantly. The town now makes everything from semiconductors and industrial ceramics to kilts and frozen curries. New housing is being built. The Clyde Shopping Centre and several new retail developments now serve a wide catchment area from Bearsden to Helensburgh. People from Clydebank district and beyond also come to enjoy new leisure developments like the 9-screen cinema complex and the 10-pin bowling alley. John Brown Engineering still makes and designs high-quality engineering products for the world market, while the famous shipyard has entered a new phase of its existence with UIE building offshore gas platforms. The memory of the great days live on in the graceful lines of the last great Cunarder to come from Clydebank, the QE2, which returned to the Clyde in the summer of 1990 to be welcomed by Provost Granger of Clydebank and John Brown workers and their families. And, last but by no means least, the old Singer Hall has been given a new lease of life, transformed into a new theatre for Clydebank, and a new home for Wildcat Stage Productions.
Well, it seems like quite a good place to be.
I think so. So do a few others.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Clyde Theatre. This evening's performance